That was all in the East. To make it 9, he's going to have to get past the Warriors and Houston. Right now, the Lakers are 5-1 to win the West, but that is a huge departure from LeBron's last couple of seasons in the East. The Cavs entered last season odds-on favorite to win the conference. And hey, you guys want to see what LeBron's going to be wearing next season? The Lakers unveiled the uniforms today. Tad bit of a throwback flair. Some highlights from the 80s Showtime era, when, of course, Magic starred for them in the purple and gold. Rachel Nichols is going to join us now, and I got to be honest, the very first thing you said to LeBron still is in my ear. Lakers, LeBron James. It does seem and sound a little bit weird. In the time and the considerable time that you spent with him, what do you take away as the #1 thing?
Look, this is a time of immense change for him, and he said it there in the interview. He said it's kind of bittersweet, right, that this personal thing of his that he's been working on for years, really, with this education project, is coming to fruition in a physical school, an actual school, and he still seemed overwhelmed in that interview at one point. He said, I'm sitting here in this school, and yet he's leaving. And he's starting this new chapter in his professional life and in his family life, frankly, to come here to the West Coast. You just read out the odds. They're not great. Right? I mean, this is a guy who has been about winning championships and working toward winning championships his whole career. And he might not ever win another one. Nicole, he might not ever get to the finals again. He's been in 8 straight finals. We don't know how things are going to pan out here for him. And he had to make a bunch of choices about coming to the Lakers. And some of them were personal and some of them were professional. And it's a gamble. But you'll hear, you heard a little bit there, and you'll hear later, and another part of the interview is going to run tonight. He's willing to bet on himself.
Tell me about part 2 of that conversation. It does debut tonight on the 6 o'clock Sports Center. That's 6 Eastern. What can we expect in that conversation?
Well, my favorite part of that is, and look, I've been saying this on the Jump on TV for a while, is that LeBron is turning 34 years old this season. So you have to look at the fact that, yes, even as a 33-year-old, he did things that we really haven't seen someone do in his 15th season of NBA basketball, play at the level that he played, especially during the playoffs here. But at some point, right, Nicole, I mean, he's not going to be the best player in the NBA anymore. He can't retire at 40 as the best player in the NBA. So at some point, we are going to see that prime diminish. We're going to see the end of that prime, and he really pushed back on me in this interview that it might be soon. So I'll let you hear his answer. But I was interested in how he wants to spend these 3 or 4 years with the Lakers because, again, turning 34 this year, he is the only, not just the only elite player on his team. It's not that, Kawhi Leonard isn't there or Paul George isn't there. He's the only all-star on that team, right? It's a very different circumstance. And again, you are getting turning 34-year-old LeBron, and then we talk about this big free agency next summer, right? And that another big star might come with him, but then at that season, he'll be turning 35. So I think it's a really interesting question for a guy who has pushed the physical limits of what a basketball player can do and be, that he is now going into this next term with the Lakers, absolutely convinced he can push them again.
It's a little bit like the Tom Brady, sort of redefining what we expect and when we expect it from the athletes who are our stars. I want to get your thoughts on this because just a few minutes ago, some other NBA news. Adam Silver announced that the NBA and MGM have forged an official partnership where the gaming company can actually use the league's names and the logos and the data. So what kind of impact is that going to have on the future of gambling in the NBA?
Yeah, it's huge. And by the way, gambling is already, the NBA and gambling already have a big relationship because, according to our Darren Ravel, there was $1.5 billion in bets placed on NBA games last year. That is a crazy number. The NBA has always been a little bit more open to the idea of gambling, and certainly in recent years under Adam Silver, they've actually advocated for legalized gambling. They saw the opportunities here. They think there's a lot of money to be made. They think the integrity of the game can be preserved. So this is the first step. All the things you mentioned are huge. The logos, the team names, the highlights. Now, they are not allowing the mobile apps or anything like that to stream live broadcasts. That is going to be another huge bonanza of money whenever that rights gets given away. We haven't seen that yet, but this is definitely a huge step. And another big part of this, Nicole, is that the NBA is so friendly to analytics right now, right? And all this sort of micro data that they call it. And the idea that you can bet not just on the spread or on the game or how many points someone's going to have or the over-under, but all of these things that they track throughout a game, right? How often a player runs up and down the court. The idea eventually is that you would sit on your phone and you would be able to go to, in this case, the MGM app and say, oh, I can see all the data come in. I can bet that they're going to do this 11 times, and I'm going to punch my credit card, and there you go.
Completely changing how we will watch games from here on out. That's Rachel Nichols. You can see more of her